retired early.
Could be, exactly like.
Yeah, I didn't even, yeah.
We could have some others like that ourselves.
Just like this.
We do, but he's only one guy. With only, so many hours in the day.
I think Shirley's feeling like crazy. I think Shirley's feeling grandma daycare. She said that would, she said like to me
Keep
today.
adding to it. Good to go. Deb will give me the heads up.
The surplus? Yeah.
Good to go?
We're ready.
All right, we'll call this meeting of the Sturgis City Council to order tonight, December 1st, 6:30 p.m. Please stand, and we'll ask that Mark Chaplin leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. We have Pastor Brian Ross in the audience tonight. Brian, can you offer us a...
Let's pray. Father, I thank you for bringing us together and keeping us safe on the way here. Lord, I thank you for the good work that these folks are doing, and just pray that they'd continue on, and just thank you for them, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Brian. Item 3 on our agenda is approval of the agenda. I don't know of any omissions or additions to the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
First by Alex, second by, is that Jim? Yeah, Jim. Those in favor of approving the agenda as it was written indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right. Item 4 is announcements and praise. Jim, you've got an extensive list.
An extensive list. I'll start with a personal in terms of praise. Was at the senior citizens meeting this morning, or the coffee, which those of us of that age enjoy doing on Monday morning. And the director came to me and said, "Do you have any pull with the city?" I said, "Well, depends on what you're asking. I know Tony." And they said, "Well, somebody, the street crew had gone through and pushed snow into the driveway. And these old people are having trouble walking over the top of it." I said, "Well, I'll talk to Rick Bush right away." And about 15 minutes later, she came back with the snow shovel, and I was assuming that maybe she had done it herself. And she said, "Boy, you work fast." She said, "I went out to do that, and it was already gone." So I gave Rick a lot of credit for that. And he made me look good. Thanks, Rick.
The question is, though, did you actually talk to him?
Well, I didn't even have a chance to. And besides, I wasn't sure if he'd be awake yet. It was only... Anyway, and then in terms of happenings, thanks, Deb, for putting this list together for us. Tomorrow is a day of giving book sale. That's Tuesday, December 2nd from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the library. Enjoy treats and fresh coffee. You can browse an all-day book sale. The sale can continue throughout the week, but your best finds will be available on opening day. Anybody that goes to those kinds of things understand. First day is best, so don't miss out. That starts tomorrow. Also, Tuesday, a Giving Tuesday event, a Merry Madrigal Christmas from 4 till 7 at the Sturgis Motorcycle Museum on Main Street. 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, that'll begin. Then on Thursday, join us at our community tree lighting ceremony at 6 p.m., and that was originally scheduled, I believe, on another day. So this is, you might make note of this, this is going to be on Thursday night at Harley-Davidson Rally Point. It kicks off a month of festivities with well wishes from local businesses, a reading of "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," which I think the mayor is going to handle this year, and that'll be received well by those kids. The traditional lighting of the community Christmas tree, hot cocoa and cider stands, and more. And then Thursday, also December 4th, and Saturday, December 6th, the Sound of Music, directed by the Black Hills Theater Company, performance at 7 p.m. Thursday, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. on Saturday. Adults, $10. Kids 12 and under are free. I'm assuming that's at the community center. Okay, community center. Saturday, December 6th, Love Inc. of Sturgis invites the public to the Christmas open house. That's from 10 to 2. They're at 1242 Sherman. Love Inc. and a Christmas open house. And then next week, December 11th, the holiday mixer at the Sturgis Chamber. That's on the 11th. And Sunday, singers and bell ringers from Sturgis and Whitewood continue a 46-year Christmas tradition. They join in a song on Sunday, December 14th at 2 p.m. at the Sturgis Community Theater. That's the Sturgis and Whitewood Singers on Sunday, December 14th.
I forgot the parade of lights on Friday. I didn't get it on there. So
Okay, I apologize. I didn't see that either. That's not going to be on Thursday, apparently, huh?
Friday,
Okay,
Friday the 5th is the parade of lights at 6.
Friday the 6th.
The 5th.
5th, Friday the 5th. Yeah, that's right. Parade of Lights on Friday the 5th. Thank you, Deb. Mr. Mayor, I believe, at least, unless I have another amendment, that's it.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Anyone else have an announcement or praise? Well, we got our first snow, and unfortunately, we made our Public Works Department work on a Saturday to cover some of that, but we appreciate them doing that over our Thanksgiving holiday. And what a shock the cold weather was. Mark was just stating how warm it was where he came from, so. Yeah, well, we're headed back the other way now, it looks like. Continuing on, item 5 is non-agenda matters that may come before the council. So does anyone have an item that's not on the agenda, currently not on the agenda, that they'd like to address the city council on? Bernie?
I just read the agenda and see that you will be talking about,
Can you talk into the mic so everyone knows who you are, and I know who you are. I think the guy next to me knows who you are.
yeah, he does. Sometimes he doesn't want me to know. Bernadette Usera, they call me Bernie. And this is dealing with something from the rally. And I'm bringing it up now because I know you've gone through looking at the monies for the city, and of course, we're concerned too about what kind of monies we will have for next year's rally, et cetera. And one of the things that I would really like to see be taken care of is that I want you to look at these little, now you're looking and I get them back. All I got left. And it is the Sturgis pin that I pass out all during the rally, up and down Main Street, wherever I'm at. I have followed bikers down through the alley, parked my car, got out and visited with them, and they were like excited little boys getting a gift. They all, you got one?
Yeah. Here, we'll just keep passing it down here.
So, I go ahead and,
I already have one.
I have one too.
okay, so you know what I'm talking
We're
about.
the little bikers you're chasing down the alleyway.
Yes. So, oh wait, I'll write that down there, okay. Not only, I just got back from Abilene, Texas, and I handed out probably 6 to 10 of these. And they were all bikers that had been up here for the rally, and they were ecstatic about this little pin. And up more about this because this is the end of what I have. And I first found out about these is when Brenda Bosnick was in the rally department. And she got the gentleman from, Gold, was it, he had,
Peter Gold?
Bernie, can you come back to the mic, please? Come back to the mic, so people can hear you. Thank you.
all right. So, in passing these out, we were on a trip to Florence, Italy on a ship. When we docked, there were no buses to take us into Florence, but there were all of these vans lined up. And we were standing outside wondering, okay, what are we going to do? And this gentleman walks over and he says, they're on strike, there are no bus drivers, but I have my vans here. If you get 7 people to ride in a van, the driver will be with you all day and take you around. He had a Sturgis t-shirt on. And I said, so, do you have a Harley? He said, yes, I do. I said, how'd you get the Sturgis t-shirt? And he said, a friend. But he says, one day I am going to be there. I am coming to Sturgis. I've heard this over and over when I encounter these bikers, women and men. And I know that Lance this year tried to get more of these made, and there was probably a mix-up or something that the people that make them didn't get the job done. But I'm really hoping that Lance will be given permission to make more of these to hand out, because even in Ireland, we're sitting in the pub having breakfast, and there's that sound. And I told my husband, hurry up, finish eating. We got to go outside. And I bet there were 50 of them, 50 riders. And the first one that I encountered was on his cell phone, and he's talking to somebody, so I pointed to the 2 different bikes and just mouthed, yours, and he pointed to his. And I said quietly, have you ever heard of Sturgis? There's a woman here from Sturgis, and I gotta go. And he hung up. And he opened up his leather jacket, and he had a Sturgis, looked like a newer Sturgis t-shirt. He was elated, and I went around to all of those bikers giving them these pins, and they were just like little kids getting new toys. This means a great deal to them. It really does. So I strongly encourage you to have Lance continue finding a company that makes these pins, and I will gladly, I take them every time we travel outside the state. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you.
Is there a way we can get them that don't say China on the back?
If you find a company here in the States.
All right, is there anyone else that has a non-agenda item that they'd like to address the council on tonight? All right, hearing none, we're going to continue on to item 7, the mayor's report. Most of the mayor's report includes just some hires that we've made through different departments, as is always, or not always, but has been the norm. We've got a couple part-time EMTs on there, and we have nothing else on that. We do have, though, item 7.6, the Sturgis Rally Financial Overview. And I think Administrator Jordan has done a fine job of writing a report indicating where we think some of the holes are and some of the opportunities, but also how we came to this number. I think it's important to note, this is interesting for me, especially since we haven't really had this type of information shared directly previously. It's that we do make money on the rally. We make a pretty good jag of money, over $1 million. Unfortunately, the revenue for ends up being part of our general fund and doesn't result in direct community projects. And you know, again, without the money we make for the rally, we would be cutting another $1 million out of our general fund budget. So it's definitely a positive for our community. But I think it's going to be up to us to try and figure out how to make sure that the community feels that benefit. I mean, when we use it to pay bills, it's a struggle, and not everybody agrees with that. So, Aaron, do you have a quick summary you want to give? We're gonna try and be a little bit timely tonight.
You know, I really don't have a lot to offer there, Mr. Merritt. And again, this is kind of looking at 24 and 25. Looking at 24 and 2025. And if you look at where, from a revenue perspective, you know, we're pretty close to what we've made for revenue between 24 and 2025. I think the difference in making a little over more, $100,000 more in 2025 is that we cut our expenses quite a bit here in 2025. And you can see in 2026, we've continued that trend. So we're trying to maximize every penny we can earn in terms of a net positive out of the rally. And then, as you kind of pointed out, you know, right now we do use that to kind of pay the bills, keep the lights on. Over time, though, we should, you know, try to work on, you know, weaning ourselves off a percentage of that, a little bit here, a little bit there. So at some point, we do have revenue that's coming out of the rally that we can, you know, show that benefits the rest of the community through a project or whatever that might be, based on whatever consensus we have from the community on what they'd like to see. So, but I think it's a step in the right direction. We have some benchmarks for 2026, and as we get close to the rally and start getting some indications from other events, how well they're going, and then how we're doing with our vendor licenses, and as we get into the actual rally, looking at our number of vendors, the sales tax aspects of it, you know, we'll have an idea where we sit kind of financially, and then hopefully we kind of meet our objections and our objectives, financial objectives, and, you know, we can kind of keep on moving down the rest of the year in 2026 with our spending plan. If we're showing a little bit less than that, then we may have to come back and, you know, prioritize some things. So it gives us some benchmarks to shoot for, and hopefully overachieve in those areas.
Aaron, I know you tried very hard to capture all the costs, but I mean, I think in some cases it's always going to be pretty difficult to capture every cost. You know, we have department heads that might get a phone call or attend a meeting sporadically, and it's really hard to compartmentalize, you know, every minute that is spent towards the rally, but I think you've done a good job. One piece that I want to point out is, and maybe you can elaborate on it a little bit more, we've had discussion, I've been involved in discussion about how much are we attributing of our sales tax dollars to the rally. And, you know, on some level, we were attributing anything above the average for the entire summer. Well, I mean, those of us that have paid attention, I mean, we have a very valid, very lucrative tourism seasons for all of our local businesses and for our community. But I don't know as if I would count every piece of that for the rally. I mean, I don't know if people that ride side-by-sides come in because of the rally, and people that come to soccer tournaments and all those other things that happen in our community during the summer months, state track meets, all those. But you came up with a formula. Again, I think your words, I'll steal them from you, is, you know, some of that's a little bit art rather than math completely. Our State Department of Revenue doesn't necessarily give us a granular amount of information that we can use to score day by day or week by week, which would definitely make that a little easier for us. But I'll let you kind of cover that if you would.
Sure. Yeah, we looked at two methodologies that kind of come up with the art of what that number is. And so what we showed for the general sales tax up in the general fund was $397,552. And how did we derive at that number? Essentially, the first methodology that we used is that, going back to 2010, there's always 2 months that are overinflated above everything else. And it's always been associated with the rally. What's interesting, if you go back to 2010, the dates that were, the 2 months that were the highest in sales tax was September and October. From 2010 to 2016, it was, if you go down, Deb, would you go down to that heat map? Keep on going. Keep going. One more. Yeah, that kind of shows the picture. You can see in September and October from 2010 to 2016, that yellow-green, that's where most of your sales tax was generated out of that 12 months for each of those years. And then when you get into 2017 through 2023, it was July and August, which makes sense to me. I always think July and August would be the two largest months when it comes down to sales tax. And in the last 2 years, the two highest months by large ways has been August and September. So what we did is we looked at those two particular months. And I think part of this is not so much that obviously the rally was always happening in August, but I'm assuming Department of Revenue in state of South Dakota, the way they collect money, the way they distribute money may have been different back then. But there's consistency, from 2010 to 2016, always the same months. 2017 through 2023, always the same 2 months. And now it's August and September for us this year. So how we came up with the 357,000 is that we took those 2 months in method one, and we totaled those 2 months up, and we divided it by 2, and I came up to 397. We also did another methodology, is that we took those 2 months and we compared it against the shoulder seasons before and after the rally, and that came up about 390,000 also. So looking at both methodologies, it seemed to kind of fit. If you're looking at, if you didn't have the rally, you probably would, that shoulder, because we're started getting some tourism coming into us in May and June. People are just coming to, the camp, whatever kind of activities, recreational here in the Black Hills. But we were leading into the late part of July into August. Obviously, you're starting to get, the rally of impact with the hundreds of thousands of people that are here. So again, that's just an art, Well, as we continue to refine this, and again, I even sift this through ChatGPT, and it threw out the same exact number that we came up with also when we kind of sifted through, from 2010 through 2025. They kind of came up with the same methodologies and kind of came up with the same numbers that we had already come up with. So I thought that I feel pretty good about at least kind of double checking that we think that's kind of what that impact is on the sales tax. And then you can also see you got that 397,000 also in the 212 account, because we also 1% of our sales tax goes to capital improvements and equipment replacement. And then also there's a number there in the special sales tax that should use the same methodologies for all of those. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Aaron. Overall, year 2025, the 85th Sturgis Motorcycle Rally was big and very lucrative for our community, and a big plus for all of those businesses in our community as well.
And I think one thing I took away from the sales tax analysis is that if you look at the 75th, if you go the next slide, Deb, you can see that jump right there on the 75th. And so the year before the 75th and the year after 75th was a lot lower. But look at the trend since the 75th, from the 76 onwards. And if there's some other slides out there, and it shows an increase for the 85th rally. But it's not as big of an increase because the rally itself has continued to grow. So, the hopeful here is that, that drop-off next year, and we anticipate there will be a little bit of a drop-off, but we have, some good marketing. We have things to celebrate as a country being 250 years since our Declaration of Independence from Great Britain. But also, we're already high going into the 75th, and so it's going to drop back to historical norms over the last 2 or 3 years. So I anticipate a drop, but nothing like we saw in the 75th. At least that's kind of what the data shows. Now, time will tell.
Time will tell. Does anybody have any questions? Any comments from the gallery? Bonnie?
Bonnie Albert Sturgis. Aaron, thank you for the explanations, because without somebody filling in the context, it's really hard to just look at these and actually get it. But I did want to ask about, okay, when we're looking at the heat map there, when you talk about that shift from August to September, how much of that has to do with our weather factors? We've had really nice falls the last 2 years. I mean, it's just been like summer well after school started. So how, when you're doing your analysis, do you account for that, or do you consider that?
We didn't look at the weather, but one thing that may have an impact, and we haven't done a deep dive on this, but again, we're more than a rally town. We're also a tourism town. We're an events town. And so it's going back and looking at those events that we've had, like the Mustang Rally, the Camaro Rally that we used to have, those kind of events, and kind of look at that data and compare it to this and see if that had any strength in terms of where the sales tax was generated from. So yeah, there's probably more to do on that, Bonnie, in terms of looking at some of those nuances. I think we just kind of did the simple one, that just looking at the 2 biggest months of the year, and try to come up with a couple of methodologies and test them against each other to come up with something that we thought was relatively close.
Well, and I like that in your methods that you're looking from different angles, that you're looking at different ways of looking at it. That's really helpful, and that's, I guess, what I was looking for as well, is that we keep focusing on the big rally, the motorcycle rally, but how much are we pegging in there? I know you knock yourselves out, and then I come and ask these questions. It's like it's never enough. And it is. You're doing a phenomenal job of looking at the data at this point. It's just, I wonder, like, if we plugged in those other little rally things, like the Broncos and the...
Yeah, I think as this process matures, I think those are kind of the nuances that we can probably take it to the next level. Look at weather events, look at those different activities that are going on in Sturgis, in the northern Black Hills, that might have an impact on City of Sturgis. So we could, sift that out a little bit to make sure we have an understanding truly what's rally related in a sense versus other type of activities. So I think that's our opportunity, Bonnie, as this matures, to be able to get those kind of nuances kind of factored in.
Well, and it's really hard to do that flat on paper, and in my mind I see little sparkles popping up where there are events that might be an influence. And the fact that you recognize that things happening in other towns impact our town as well.
Absolutely.
I always like to look at this. I mean, we talk about Sturgis and we talk about keeping our own money for us and helping us, but what we have to recognize is that we're a Northern Hills community. We're not just, Sturgis is a town and a community in and of itself, but we have this cluster of towns that create the Northern Hills community as a whole. It's like, was it last night? I think it was last night. Went to a little concert in Belle Fourche. Nice to see their facility, hear their sound system, meet some of their people, and kind of get back to interacting with the other towns. We've kind of drifted a little bit away from that, I think, in economic desperation. But thank you for doing this. I'm a data person, so I like seeing this, and I like seeing it represented in different ways, and it's really helpful to us, but it never stands alone. Your explanations always give us the context and the dimension to understand it, so thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm looking at you, Aaron, and saying that, but I know that you're not in this by yourself.
It's a team effort.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. So, hearing no other questions, we'll continue on. Item 8 is the consideration of the consent agenda. These 3 items would be considered together. We've got minutes from the November 17th council meeting and 2 veteran exemption motions. Does anybody want any of those 3 removed and considered separately? Hearing none, is someone willing to motion the consent calendar?
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a first by Nick, a second by Alex, to approve the consent agenda in its entirety. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 9 is approval of the claims. Thank you for getting some of those sent out a little bit earlier this week. That's even with the holiday.
It seemed to work well, and I know you want to go to that all the time, and I think it'll work. I really do. It'll help with the department heads, I think, and our office especially. So.
Great, thank you. Anyone have any questions or concerns on the claims? How about from the public? Any questions from the claims? Bernie, you haven't been here for a while. All right, no comments on the claims from the gallery. Is someone willing to motion the claims?
I'll move to approve. I'll second it.
Yeah, first by Terry and a second by Tony to approve the claims. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That is unanimous. Thank you. Item 10.1 is public hearing. Consideration to approve the 2025 Dixon Supply LLC property lease amendment.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. This item is an amendment to the existing long-term lease, which Dixon's has on the 1100 Main Street building, the bank building. It's a 13-month extension that will allow them continue their retail operation through 2026.
I guess I had a question, Lance. I, being the rookie on the council, what's it cost us to rent that? I see on the, that we received 50,000. What do we pay out to lease that?
Councilor Jensen, that particular agreement is a confidential, our lease of that property is a confidential agreement. This was a public document from day one, this sublease.
Okay.
But that original lease with the property owner is confidential.
Eric, are you okay with, are we getting the most bang for our buck on this?
We can evaluate that on a staff level. I actually was not aware that the city's position on that was that the bank lease is confidential. In consideration of that, it may be best to postpone this agenda item for 2 weeks so that we can get the answer to that question. I think we can come up with a more developed staff report, but I don't have the answer to that question right now.
And I thought we were out of the business of renting, and as we had other buildings.
Do I understand that our lease for the building is for another year?
I'm sorry, Councilor Blakeman, that for me to comment on that, this is a confidential agreement.
Well, I would say that we need to table because
I'm gonna
it's
have
certainly
a
not
hard,
my view.
well, I'm just gonna have a hard time voting in support of it when I don't know. I mean, for all I know, we're paying 100,000 and only getting 50,000 back, I mean, I just don't have any information on it.
I would like to make a motion to table it until we find out some,
Counselor, can we hold that for a second? Eric, this is a public hearing. Can we make the motion before we open the public hearing? And
Honestly, if the agenda item is not going to be acted on tonight, it doesn't really make sense to hold the public hearing. So probably what we would do is notice a new public hearing and just do it all again at the next meeting.
Sorry, Counselor.
No,
I
that's
just wanted
fine.
clarification on that. So do you have a motion then?
Yeah. I do have a motion. Table.
Motion to table, which would be to our next meeting, which would be the 15th.
And can we just include in that motion to reschedule and reset the public hearing that was set for tonight
For what date?
for the same meeting?
For the next meeting? Okay, I'll make that motion to set the public hearing for the next meeting.
Okay, we've got a first by Terry, a second by Jim to table the Dixon lease until our next meeting and include additional information. Is there any further discussion?
Was there a second on that?
Yes. Jim. No further discussion? Call for the vote. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That motion is carried.
Thank you.
Takes us to item 11.1, medical cannabis dispensary renewal application, Northern Hills Alternative Health. Chief, you're going to cover this for us?
So I would ask that maybe I cover the next item 11.1 through 11.4. I'll give you a brief little report on all of them together. If you want to do a motion to approve individually or as a group, I don't know if there's any real legalities. I kind of treat this beer license, but I thought I'd give you kind of little updates. These are 3 dispensaries as well as 1 grow operation. All 4 of these places are in compliance with our inspections. We completed our inspection today on the last place, code enforcement, Donovan Coonrod and myself, and all their fees have been paid and their insurance is up to date and there's no issues with any of the 4 of them. So if you want, I can go through each one individually if you want to make separate motions, or if you want to do it all together, it's up to you guys.
My preference would be separate motions.
Okay.
So for Northern Hills Alternative, they are up to date, everything's in compliance, and their insurance is accurate and up to date, and they are, all their fees are paid in full.
Okay. Any discussion on the renewal for Northern Hills Alternative Health?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
First by Nick, a second by Ruth to approve. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
11.2 is renewal application for Puffies.
Puffies as well is up to date. They're within compliance. Their premises has been inspected. Insurance is up to date, and their fees are all paid and current.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
First by Jim, a second by Alex to approve the renewal for Puffies. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. 11.3 is cultivation renewal application for the Crop Shop LLC.
The crop shop's been inspected. Their insurance is current. Their fees are current as well. They're up, no issues.
Thank you, Jody. And I guess I should have probably pointed this out sooner. Each one of these, they pay a $7,500 fee, don't they? Yeah.
That's correct.
Any further discussion on 11.3, the Crop Shop cultivation renewal application?
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
First by Jesse, a second by Tony to approve the renewal of the Crop Shop LLC cultivation license. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. 11.4 is medical cannabis manufacturing renewal application for Crop Shop LLC.
They as well are current on their insurance, been inspected, no issues, and have paid their fees and are in compliance.
Thank you, Chief.
Chief, can I ask you, as it relates to cannabis in general, for the public that doesn't really understand how it might work, are you finding with the police department an increase in arrests or people overuse or things of that nature?
I guess one thing to talk about here is these dispensaries are relating to medical marijuana, and so they are in a little separate category. As far as criminal arrest and drug arrest, I would say that we have seen an increase in some of more of the controlled substance, and fentanyl are probably our two hot items that you kind of see in the news nowadays.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Don't all speak at once. Who is that? Tony and Alex?
Yeah, sure.
Tony and Alex. Tony first, second Alex, to approve Crop Shop Medical Cannabis Manufacturing Renewal Application. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That has carried unanimously. Thank you, Chief. Item 11.5 is consideration of a professional services agreement with Jana Watson for planning and zoning consultation.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll kind of start this one off, and then I'm going to hand it off over to Eric, because he has personal experience with the person that we're looking at having a professional service agreement with. Name is Jana Watson. She's a long-term person working in planning and directing position. She was with Spearfish for a long time. She served, in leadership roles in South Dakota Planners Association for 8 years, culminating as the president in 2016, and served on the Western Planner editorial board since 2010. Well respected in the planning director community here in Western South Dakota, the Northern Hills, across the state. Looking at having somebody, as we get a new planning director position, that position's still open. We haven't received any applications, but we've heard a couple of people that have shown some interest that we're going to be visiting with. And hopefully that kind of comes into some applications and hopefully a hire here sometime early next year. The thought process is, with all the things that have been going on with the ordinance reviews and most of the things that we've been tackling, from camping to everything else, seems to have a connection or a nexus to the planning position. And, fortunately for us, we've had Rick step up and has been doing a fantastic job for us for the whole 2020-25. But yet we have a lot going on. The op tempo starting to get a little bit higher, and Rick Still is also the director of Public Works, trying to handle all that stuff too, doing a fantastic job. So we're looking at having somebody come in and help us, as we look at doing some of these ordinances and kind of fine tuning that and trying to fast track some of these things, because we know that we continue to get new ones that we put on the plate, and we'd like to be able to close them out so we can kind of manage that. And then the key part for me is having, along with Rick, when we get that new person in the position, to help this person kind of get up to speed relatively quick. So you can get the continuity and understanding from Rick, and then from Jana, who's been doing this for decades and has an understanding what a good program looks like, can help us kind of that person paint the picture on what that would look like. Don't see any from a budget issue. We have some funds still left in the planning permitting position here in 2025. And I don't anticipate it going over what we've already appropriated for 2026. Now, if we end up having a lot more stuff that comes down the pipeline for ordinances reviews, that planners, and we haven't got that position filled, that may change. And if that's the case, I'll come back to you and seek some resources there before we would go beyond what's already been appropriated. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric. And Eric, why don't you take it from there, please?
Well, I'll start with an apology. It was on Wednesday before the holiday. I was working with Aaron to generate some reports, and it was my job to get the staff reports submitted so that they could make it into the council packet. And I'm still, working through some bugs with iCompass and just the other things related to this office, and I didn't quite do it correctly. And so the 3 reports that I spent a lot of time generating for you didn't make it to the council packet, and I apologize, but I did set them on the dais for you before the meeting and handed some out here in the audience to anyone who wants them. But I think Aaron did a really good job of covering it. This is an issue that we've been focusing on pretty heavily from the mayor, from Aaron, from Rick, on just trying to handle the consequences of having a long-term vacancy in that incredibly important position, especially in the light of the last meeting and the mobile home zoning ordinance amendment that was raised by the citizens and the council's desire to fast-track that project. And it's really difficult to handle some of these projects generally, much less fast track them, when we don't have a qualified person and our applicant pool is not filling out in the way that we anticipated. So there's, I think Aaron did a great job of covering it, but two goals that we talked about with this. One, Jana is incredibly experienced and competent in this area. She's available and willing to do some contracting work with us that will help us triage some of the issues, help us continue to, handle promptly, effectively the conditional use permit, uses on review, variance request, rezoning applications that are coming in, so that we can continue to serve the citizens without overmaxing Rick or me, who are working on other jobs. But second is, we are hoping that if the council will engage with Jana, that we can leverage that engagement to open up our applicant pool, to maybe start looking at some applicants who do not have all of the training or experience that we might be expecting, and that we might be able to have someone train them and build a new program, because there are some ways in which we are going to be building a new planning and permitting program from the ground up, both with just changes to the code and with changes to the organizational structure. And, Aaron mentioned I have a professional history with Jana. She was the city planner for my entire tenure on the Spearfish City Council, and then I worked with her when I was city attorney. Even when I went to law school in the interim, I worked with Jana really closely. She convinced me to not write my law review article on Sturgis's change in form of government in 2007, and to instead write it on municipal special assessments, which I did pump out a 52-page law review article on, if anyone wants to read it, in light of a South Dakota Supreme Court case that came down. But I have utmost respect for Jana. She is top-notch in her competence. I worked with her. She is probably the staff member that I worked most closely with in Spearfish. Together we worked to rewrite the entire sections of Spearfish's code regarding variances and conditional use permits, so they were up to date with all the statutes and with all the case law. And that is something that I would like to engage with her on as well, in addition to just triaging some of the planning and permitting issues that come through, doing some of that work, working on this mobile home zoning amendment, starting to work on some amendments to the code that are going to serve the council and serve the citizens better in the future. And again, to leverage her engagement to attract other candidates. It's not as if there's 4 or 5 trained and competent city planners sitting around the northern Black Hills looking for jobs. These are areas that we usually need to recruit people from in other ways. Maybe that wouldn't be the case if we had a local person who was able to offer some intensive on-the-job training. Jane is available for short-term into medium-term. I think in some of the discussions that we've had with her, we're talking about 3 to 6 months and going from there, and that the hope is that we will have the planning and permitting position filled by then, that she can start training that person up, help that person create a new department, and then be ready to go. I'm happy to answer any questions on this. Jana is on board. She's ready to go. If the council approves the contract, I'll probably send her a work order on the mobile home zoning amendment change that the council requested before the end of the week, and I anticipate that she'll start working on those. Do anticipate her relieving Rick of the temporary responsibilities that he has taken up in this role, and I expect her to come and be able to present to council and to planning commission when it's necessary. So happy to answer any questions about the professional services agreement, about my professional experience with Jana, or anything else.
How long did you say she's available for?
We've been talking about like 3 to 6 months. She's retired. She's not looking for a new job, but she is looking for a fun and interesting project, which I think I have convinced her that this could be at least interesting and potentially fun.
Never ends.
But there's potential to add a few more hours on to the end, or she's open and flexible is my understanding. We'll see what she thinks after she's been doing some stuff for a couple weeks, but I expect most of the work she'll be doing for us is remote.
She also has a connection to Sturgis. She lives not too far from here. She grew up in Sturgis, graduated back in I'm not going to put, a date. They don't like when I do that.
Graduated from here, though, right?
But she had some siblings that, kind of graduated about the same time I did. So she has a connection to our community. She cares about City of Sturgis. She wants us to be successful. She'll like what you guys are doing, what we're doing as a community, and the transparency and understanding that, we do a lot of things well, but there's a lot of things we can do better. And she has some experience in some of those areas and can help us out. So
I'm assuming one of the things that will drive our time with Jana would be how quick we can get the position filled. I mean, and her availability, obviously, but.
It's a huge goal for us. I mean, we are going to take this opportunity. I'm going to start, if the council approves this contract, I'm going to start working with Carrie yet this week to revise our job description, to get it out there, to do some advertising for it, to be recruiting some candidates, and that is definitely our goal, is to fill this position as soon as possible so that Jana can work with.
And again, our position is out right now. We basically took, I'm assuming she probably had some influence on Spearfish's position description. So we took the one that we got from Condrey and Associates here earlier this year, socialized that against the Spearfish one, and kind of came up with a hybrid that we felt pretty good for us. So it probably does a 90% solution. So the position's open right now. It's open till the end of December. Again, we have a couple applicants or people that are interested. I'm going to visit with them this week to see if that's a good mix, if something is a good opportunity for them. Not all of them probably going to come with a vast amount of experience and a degree, but all of them have experiences in planning. And again, having somebody like Jana that would, it gives us an opportunity, as Eric pointed out, to bring somebody in that may not necessarily be, exactly what we were looking for in terms of experience and qualifications, but has, 80% of that and just needs a mentor and somebody to help them kind of get them started on the right foot. And then maybe be around potentially to help out a little bit. Again, we already got great continuity with Rick, with what he's been doing. Rick did this for years prior to becoming the Director of Public Works. So we have the opportunity to bring somebody in there that kind of looking for the right tangibles, right, the right attributes. You don't necessarily have to be able to drive the car perfectly on day one, but we can probably get you up to speed with Rick, with Jana, working with Eric with his experience in planning, and kind of get you up to speed relatively quick to be successful for the City of Sturgis. So that gives us that opportunity to do that.
Any other questions or comments from council?
Motion to approve.
And first by Alex, a second by Jim to approve the professional service agreement with Jana Watson for planning and zoning consultation. Any further discussion? Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 11.6, order and service agreement with Westlaw.
Another report that didn't make it in your packet, I apologize. The city's had a relationship with Westlaw for many years. It's a staple in almost every law firm, certainly almost every city attorney's office. They have an entire government section. I doubt there is a government, I highly doubt there's a government attorney's office in South Dakota that doesn't have a Westlaw account, or at least a LexisNexis account, which is their main competitor. We elected to go with Westlaw just because of the sheer number of additional secondary resources they have, including some treatises on municipal government. Westlaw is owned by Thomson Reuters. It's a huge company, provides an online legal research platform that's up to date. Great overviews of municipal law, great opportunity to dig into other codes. Again, look at secondary sources, see what other municipalities are doing. We've had one of these contracts for forever, and we just need another one. It's been canceled since it was vacant, since the city attorney's office was vacant, and this contract will be for 1 year. The monthly cost is $545.95, which is a reduced government rate, ultimately about $6,500 out of the budget. We budgeted about $10,000 in legal research. This is the extent of what I expect that we will need, although they do offer some a la carte services that are for products that are not contained in the subscription. It's pretty rare when I would order those, so we're well within the budgeted amount.
questions from council?
I'd move to approve.
Second.
Now, first by Jim, a second by Terry to approve the, what are we calling that? Order and service agreement with Westlaw. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. That's carried unanimously. 11.7 is Resolution 2025-40, resolution authorizing disposition of surplus personal property.
I'll handle this one again. I've been kind of shuttling the surplus process through as we just work through and consult all the relevant statutory considerations, of which there are many. But the council will recall back on November 3rd, we passed Resolution 2025-35 declaring certain personal property surplus. The council appointed appraisers. The appraisers met. They filed their appraisal report with the Sturgis Finance Office as required by law. And then I told you that we would come back with a proposed disposition recommendation. We met as a staff and evaluated all the potential ways to dispose of this surplus property in the avenues that statute grants to us. Those would be private sale, essentially like having the city hold a garage sale or doing a public auction, destroying it, surplusing it to other governments. Ultimately, we looked at local auction companies, Sturgis auction companies. We also looked at nationwide auction companies with a local presence, and it was determined on the staff level to recommend going with Purple Wave Auctions. It's a very popular site for surplusing a lot of steel items like our dozer. Rick worked with them, has a relationship with them, reviewed with them our list. They told us that there wasn't really anything on the list that they wouldn't consider taking, although there's some things that they would group up. So that is the proposal, is to sell everything that's on Exhibit A with Purple Wave. And then just authorizing the city administrator to execute any necessary bills of sale or handle the details of the auction, and for the finance office to publish all of the required public notices. So ultimately, when that is done, the idea would be that we would publish the public notices in the newspaper, post the auction dates on the city website, on our Facebook pages, make sure people are aware of them, make sure they know how to register and bid. There is no cost to the city of Sturgis for this service. All of the cost will be paid by an added buyer's premium. And then if there are certain items that do not sell, we'll then have the avenue, since they were offered on public auction, to either sell them at a reduction off the appraised price or find some other disposition pathway. But we think trying to sell everything on Purple Wave is the best way to go. Again, no cost, gives, allows it to be a open, fair, transparent process where everyone can bid, everyone can see how it works. Purple Wave will work with us to come down, take photographs of the items, and I think people will have an opportunity to come see anything if they want to and can reach out to the city. We'll let them know how to do that. But that's the recommended disposition pathway. If the council has any questions or a different recommended pathway, I'm happy to answer them. Again, state statute, a lot of considerations from state law on how we surplus property. We've gone through everything. We've met all the requirements. In order to sell city property, it needs a 2/3 vote of the council, and so passing this resolution will authorize the sale of all these items to the highest bidder at a public auction.
And being it's a public auction, there's not restrictions then either on who can bid, right?
Correct.
Eric, I don't mean to, it was an item I should have mentioned to you, but a previous item that a previous council disposed of was a bunch of 1-ounce silver coins that we have, I think, determined that we still have possession of. Is that still in play?
I will need to confirm that those items were actually surplus, but if they were, yes, I think they can be added. I guess what I would suggest, let me confirm that those items were actually surplus by appropriate resolution. If they were, let's just make the motion to pass Resolution 2025-40 with the addition of those silver coins on Exhibit A, and we'll handle that on the staff level. If they were appropriately surplused We'll pass those along to Purple Wave if they'll take them, and if not, we'll come back to you with a different recommended disposition pathway for those.
Great. Something made me think there was like 50 or 60 of them, so.
Yeah, I mean, if we have stuff sitting around that's already been surplus years ago, we should get rid of it.
Thank you.
May I ask, are we getting out of the bouncy house business entirely?
That is above my pay grade. I don't know the answer to that question.
We are? Because that,
You want to go in on the sumo wrestling kit, though? Maybe you and I can.
Sumo wrestle the mayor.
I remember we had a discussion, or at least I brought up who owns them, where they're stored, what's the insurance, all, et cetera. So that, this would answer that question, so we're out of the business. Those aren't available any longer. If we sell them, nobody has access to them.
And for the right price, they could be yours.
Yeah. Oh.
Eric, so this stuff goes to auction. I assume that they set minimums on this stuff, or
I think they'll work with staff to set minimums on some of these items.
Some
Yeah,
of them
some of
are.
it I think will go on without reserve.
Yeah.
The auction company is very experienced in this. They're making recommendations to us. They know what they think stuff will sell for, what things should have a minimum bid for, and if it doesn't go, we can always, again, there's alternate pathways.
Yeah, I just didn't. I assumed that we wouldn't sell things that are obviously valuable for pennies on the dollar.
No, that wouldn't be our intention, certainly, and Purple Wave has a pretty good sense of the market, and people are aware of their auctions. And I was told that they expected they could get top dollar for the bouncy houses. I don't know if that's true, but we'll see.
All right. Well, we've had some good discussion on this. Is there a motion? And we'd be looking for a motion to include those silver coins as well.
Motion to approve with adding the silver coins to Exhibit A.
No, second.
Okay, so we've got a motion by Alex to approve Resolution 2025-40 with the addition of the city-owned silver coins that appear to be surplus previously, a couple years ago. Second was by Jim. Is there any further discussion? Of course, we need 2/3 votes, so to make sure of that tonight, we'll go ahead and roll call. I'll start over here with Mark.
Yes.
Ruth?
Yes.
Jesse?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Well, that's certainly better than a 2/3 vote.
Before you go on, I would like to thank Rick and I'd like to thank Joshua and Mike for helping with that appraisal.
Doing the appraisal? Yeah, good stuff. We used some city employees and that had knowledge on that. All right, continuing on, 11.8 is consideration to approve the 2026 billboard lease agreement with Epic Outdoor Advertising.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a one-year lease agreement for 2 of the 9 billboards we use for our sponsors and partners. It's for the calendar year of 2026.
Comments?
These are year leases, right? Correct?
The term of this agreement is 1 year, Councilor Jones, that's correct.
Did it go up? I don't remember last year's, I apologize. They raise their fee or anything?
No, not last year, but this is an increase over the past 2 years.
Any other comments?
Can you remind me where these are located?
One is at exit 30 and one at exit 32. They are both eastbound faces.
Thank you.
What are they flying right now, Lance?
South Dakota Beef is on one and AMA Pro's demo lot on the other.
So that's dated a little bit.
That's correct.
So our lease for this is sponsors, this is a benefit for somebody buying a sponsorship. They're included on the billboard.
Yes, we sublease those.
We pay $10,000 a year, essentially. Is that, how does that recouped, or is, I mean, I guess is the sponsorship, does that taken into consideration when somebody buys a sponsorship, that they're getting a $10,000? Okay.
That's correct, Councilor Thompson. Thank you.
I'd move to approve. Got a first by Nick to approve the billboard lease.
I'll second.
Second by Mark. Is there any further discussion? My comment would be that we shouldn't have anybody that is not a sponsor on our billboard. Call for the vote. Those in favor of the motion indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. All right, that is carried.
Thank you.
I'd like to maybe unpack what you just said.
Okay.
Restate that, would you please?
We don't put non-sponsors on our,
I would say in a typical year, but we're not looking at having a lot of sponsors in 2026.
okay?
So, you know, what our thought was, and this is something that Lance and I have spent a lot of time thinking about, is that for 2026, we're really trying to emphasize our partnerships with who've been our sponsors until we come up with a vehicle that allows us to have sponsorships that, you know, meets, you know, South Dakota law. But in the meantime, we want to, again, capitalize on those relationships and those partnerships. And so these billboards allows what I would say our past sponsors in 2025 and our, you know, our partners in 2026 to be able to still market their brand, you know, for the Sturgis Rally. So I think big, long-term, yeah, I think that's the right approach to take. But I think for 2026, we may need to be flexible just because of our situation.
Thank you. I agree with that, Aaron, except that I think both of those are from 2024. So they are partners, but if partners would be taking care of us as well.
Right. Remember, we have 9 billboards. This is the first 2. We have another 7 to come up also. This is, I think they're with a different company. This is the 2 with Epic. So we do have quite a bit of billboard space, and that's an opportunity for us to be able to kind of leverage with our sponsors, our partners, you know, to be able to, for them to market their brand during the rally, but also for us to generate more revenue. And again, that revenue that we got from those billboards, you know, is on that report that the mayor provided.
Well, maybe we need to reconsider having 9 billboards if we don't expect as many spaces.
Yeah.
All right. That takes us to Teamsters Health Agreement for participation for bargaining and non-bargaining unit employees. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. Maybe I'll just hold it. The vote is in. The employees voted on the Teamsters to move forward with our health plan. Part of that vote is that we now need to have an agreement for participation for both bargaining unit employees and non-bargaining unit employees. These are 2 separate reports that need to be signed by the mayor. What this does is this allows us to stay in this plan for 2 years. For 24 months, 2 years. Following the 24-month period, the city may terminate the agreement, providing 30 days in advance written notice. We do plan on having open season for our employees next week, the 8th through the 12th. Employees, and this is the fantastic news, employees will not pay a deductible for December. So our current health plan, we paid the month prior for the next month. So we paid in November for December. Now that we are stopping our health plan with Hub International, our employees will not pay a health deductible for the month of December. The way that the Teamsters work it is you pay for the month that you get the coverage, and so we will not be paying until January. We do have some employees that do not sign up for the Teamsters. Those are employees that receive their health care either through some other means. Some are TRICARE, some are Medicare. The Insurance Committee also made a recommendation that we will use AFLAC for dental and vision, and then New York Life for our life insurance for those employees. Open season is still going to be 8th through the 12th, so we will be hitting every single employee next week. Pending your questions, that's all I have.
It was overwhelmingly positive for the Teamsters,
It
correct?
really was, Alex, and one of the reasons why is that the deductible with this company is $500 for an individual, $1,500 for a family. And so compared with Hub International, our current provider was $4,000 for an individual and $12,000 for a family. So it was overwhelming that we moved to the Teamsters plan.
You want to talk just very briefly about the process? I mean, because you did mention a committee, and that was a piece that came out of the 2025 budgeting process a year ago. And
the committee was first set up in, I believe, March or April. They had one meeting. We waited for several months for 2026 numbers to get to the committee. Once the numbers finally made it to the committee, we very quickly met. Did a comparison, side-by-side comparison with Hub International, our current, and then the Teamsters. We also looked at a third plan. That was the South Dakota pool. However, the South Dakota pool was in line with Hub International, and there was no reason to make a change just to make a change. So because the Teamsters came in, their numbers were, again, fantastic. It really was employees making the determination on whether they wanted to stay with Hub or whether they wanted to move to the Teamsters. I will say it was not all employees did not vote for the Teamsters. One of the reasons that we were given that the employees did not is that Hub International had a high deductible health plan, which allowed employees to have a health savings account. The Teamsters will have a flexible spending account, but they will not have a health savings account. The difference between those two accounts is the health savings account allows employees to roll over monies from one year to the next year. The flexible spending account requires that all money must be spent during the year that it was contributed. So if you contribute it in 2025, it has to be used by December of 2025, or that money is essentially relinquished to the FSA. So some people do want to have a health savings account. However, per IRS rules, if you don't have a high deductible health plan, you cannot have a health savings account. Flexible spending account is what we're going to be using for all employees next year who want to contribute to that account.
Under budget impact,
Yeah.
is that supposed to say the city pays 76% of the individual premium?
Yes, thank you. The individual premium and then 53.3% of the family premium. That is correct. We do not expect that to change. Again, I put the information on there of the city will save the budgeted contributions for the month of December. We're not going to know what it's going to look like for 2026. We are not going to essentially break the bank on what we've predicted and what we've budgeted for insurance for 2026. I predict that we're going to have some employees who have the individual plan. Their spouse might have insurance through their place of business, and we might have employees that now move from an individual plan to a family plan. I don't know how many are planning on doing that, but I can provide numbers to you once open season has been completed.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like, Gary, this is probably one of your first tasks of big insurance deals like this, but I want to say thanks for your hard work. I mean, you made things happen, and looks like you got the employees a great deal, and we're glad we have you on board.
Thank you. This was a true team effort. The committee was already stood up before I got here. I was the last person to join the committee, and it just happened to be at the same time that we got all of the numbers. But thank you, I appreciate it. The committee absolutely did a deep dive into all of these companies to make sure that we were making the right recommendation. We did meet with employees 4 times for different meetings that we had for employees to answer their questions, to go over anything that maybe they didn't understand. And in the end, we overwhelmingly chose the Teamsters, but thank you.
Well, it's a big task to take on, and you handled it. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
And thanks to the members from the rest of the city team, the staff,
Absolutely.
taking part of this. I think it's a plus that we've actually been able to provide a better benefit with no anticipated rise in costs to the city, and that's how it's supposed to work.
I absolutely agree. Thank you.
With that, is someone willing to motion this item 11.9?
I'll second.
First by Terry, a second by Ruth, to approve participation for bargaining and non-bargaining unit employees. Is there any further discussion? Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. And that is carried unanimously as well. That brings us to item 12, executive session. Eric, I believe you have a need for executive session.
Yes, I think a short one, Mayor, to discuss two matters. The first would be to go into executive session to consult with legal counsel about proposed or pending litigation pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2 sub 3. And the second would be preparing for contract negotiations pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2 sub 4. No action is anticipated. I don't think it'll take long.
I'll move.
In agreement with the two reasons?
Yep.
First by Ruth, second by Nick to adjourn
Mark.
to executive, or to go to exec.
He was first.
Was it his?
Yeah.
Sorry.
What?
I had my head down. Mark was first.
I don't care.
First by Mark, a second by Ruth.
No, I didn't say
Did I
anything.
got it all messed up?
You got my name right this week, though. I'm just kidding.
I don't ever get your name right, but your nameplate is wrong, by the way.
Oh, well, I have a new one coming.
Okay,
No, it's right.
Oh, I haven't looked at it, so I don't know.
okay.
Mark and Nick.
Mark and Nick, first and second. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. mic's off. We've returned from executive session. I'd be entertain a motion to go back to regular session.
I'll move.
First by Mark, a second by Jim to return to regular session. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That brings us to the end of our agenda tonight. With no further action, I'd be entertaining a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. I'll second.
The first by Tony, a second by Mark to adjourn. Those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
We are now adjourned. Thank you.
We'll talk tomorrow about